we're going to do top 3 most embarrassing moments we're going to alter the decade a little bit. Instead of 2007 to 2017, we're going to do 2010 to 2020. And so there's several football coaches that encompasses. There's several athletic directors that encompasses. So here's how we'll do this. Mark, we're going to let you go first, and then Rustin can go, and then I'll go last. So that we haven't seen each other's, I've seen their lists, so you might think I stole from them. I didn't, but that way, if people think we're stealing from each other, they'll think I stole from you guys. So Mark, what's your number 3 most embarrassing moment here?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I could come up, it could be another week. I could have 3 others. You could ask me this question a week after that. I come up with 3 others, but here's where I am right now. So number 3, I'm looking on the field, 13 men on the field against LSU in 2010. Nothing summed up Derek Dooley more in terms of on-field coaching acumen than that. I know, and that can only be something that would benefit Les Miles at that time, because Les Miles seemed to be the luckiest coach in the history of the world. The fact that Les Miles completely mismanaged that game, and he was just fortunate enough to have somebody even more incompetent on the other side of the field. So the fact that Tennessee lost a game with not 12, but 13 men on the field against LSU, I put that as number 3.
Well, and I didn't know this until I read this book, but everybody always wonders, how in the world do you end up with 13 men on the field? Mark explains it in this book. There was coaches calling different personnel packages, and that's how it ended up with 13 men. And 2 players come off, 2 players come on, but then one of the players that was going off just turned around and went back onto the field. Only in the Derek Dooley era. So what's your number 2, Mark?
Number 2, I'm going to go with Champions of Life. And this is pretty much all of the Butch Jones quotes. If you're winning 11, 12 games a year, you're winning division championships, you're playing in Atlanta, you can put up with things like that. I mean, look at Clemson right now. I'm sure that their fans are sick of Dabo, but they're still winning conference championships, and they're still in the mix. They won 2 national titles with them. So you're going to put up with some of these stupid things that they say. But when Butch pops up with Champions of Life at a time when Tennessee once again has underachieved greatly with the most talent in the SEC East for 2 years, and they still can't get over the hump, fans finally just couldn't take it anymore. And I understood. So I'll go with all the Butch Jonesism, but the most memorable one to me was Champions of Life.
And the numero uno, what's your number 1?
How do you kick a field goal from the 1-yard line in the first quarter of that Oklahoma game? Before this Alabama game this year, that is the loudest sustained noise I had ever heard in Neyland Stadium, and I've been to a lot of games at Neyland Stadium. The atmosphere was absolutely electric that night. It was terrific. There were times during that game where I just paused and just looked around, because it was just, this type of angry loud that you don't get very often. You had an Alabama game. You had it for Alabama this year. Though I wasn't at 98 Florida, people said it was like that for that, and it was like that for 2015 Oklahoma. Tennessee had all the momentum. You've got a battering ram running back in Jalen Hurd, who's not in the game for whatever reason. You need 36 inches. 99% of the time, your worst case scenario is that you get stuffed, and now Oklahoma's got the ball on their own 1-yard line with a raucous, crazy crowd. What's the worst thing that's going to happen here? I know it's possible. There could be a fumble, run back 99 yards. Yes, that's possible. It does happen. But why you're taking away, it's almost like some of the air from the balloon went out right at that moment. And that to me summed up Butch Jones. It was a coaching scared type thing. And I think that anybody who really watch it, I watch games now, and you never see anybody kick a field goal from the 1-yard line. Ever in any type of football game, unless it's like a final second to win a game. You never see it. So that to me was absolutely the most embarrassing thing of this period.
And, to your point here, what you just mentioned, you don't see teams kicking field goals from the 1-yard line, especially now when they play Tennessee, because they know points are at a premium.
Absolutely.
And if they're that close, they have to go for it.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, Rustin, what is your number 3 most embarrassing moment during that decade?
So my number 3 agreed with Mark, and Champions of Life I kind of was okay with, because he was trying to be holistic. The one that always got me was 5 Star Hearts. I'm like, so what you're saying is publicly you can't recruit with the big boys. Like you're just saying I'm going to go after 2 and 3 star kids and hope they've got a lot of work ethic. That one always killed me. 63 effort was another one that killed me. All the Butchisms, we could all do with never having those again. Number 2 for me was Derek Dooley sitting on a stool with orange pants on and crutches hanging off his arms and almost getting knocked off the stool multiple times on the sideline. Like, it was like, what person is watching this in the athletic department and going, please go up in the box, please go up in the box. It was the ultimate model or example of just incompetence. And then, we said most embarrassing, and my number 1 might surprise people. I felt like Shiano Sunday was one of the most embarrassing moments in school history. Now, I'm thankful that it happened, because I think Greg Schiano would have been a horrible situation at Tennessee. I think would have been a terrible fit, and it would have crashed and burned. But at the same time, the rest of the country is watching a fan base and elected politicians use social media to usurp a university and win. And to me, it's just an incredibly embarrassing moment for the university that they got to that point.
Absolutely. And the fact that the fans did win is essentially an admission by the university that we messed up really bad, that we cannot lead our athletic department. Like, that's a good point. So I've got some honorable mentions here that I had to include.
Did you just go through the book and write down every chapter?
So these are not ranked order in this particular list, but so this is what I mentioned earlier. I did not know that Kippy Brown was interviewed for the when Derek Dooley was hired. Kippy Brown got interviewed after they had an agreement with Derek Dooley.
Yes.
I did not know that until I read Mark's book. Like, that was news to me when I read his book. That shocked me that you already had an agreement with this guy. Oh, but we're going to interview our interim head coach just to say we did. I mean, like, that's a slap in the face to Kippy Brown, really. And the only reason it didn't make my actual top 3 was because it was in private. Like, I didn't know about it. Most people didn't know. And so that's kind of the inside info you get in this book. 13 men on the field against LSU was horribly embarrassing. The famous shot of Derek Dooley throwing his headset down as he walks off the field, that's forever ingrained in people's minds. The fallout from Bruce's cookout, that was embarrassing, and all the national media attention that got, him on ESPN apologizing. Number 4, this one almost made my top 3. Do you all remember the punt return against Arkansas where we missed like 13 tackles?
Yes. On
one play? And it was like a video game. The dude was just running in between our players. We're running into each other, falling off of him. It was so embarrassing. And the guy returns it for a touchdown. Number 5, inventing ways to lose to Florida on 4th and long in the 4th quarter. We got really good at that. And last second plays of, the one year they hit the guy down the right sideline, and our 2 defensive backs run into each other, collide, and he takes off down the sideline for a game-winning touchdown. Then the Felipe Franks pass, Hail Mary, and oh man, it's just, we invented ways. Number 6, Barb's chip dip player of the week. That was
which has been resurrected at Arkansas State.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Number 7, this one barely snuck in there because this was a 2020 deal. So it barely snuck in 2010 to 2020, but all the McDonald's bag stuff. And people are mocking that in national media. It was mentioned on College Game Day, these McDonald's bags. And then obviously Shiano Sunday was an utter, stain on the university as far as like an indictment on the administration at the time, which thankfully we now have a different administration. So that's good. But here's my actual top 3. Georgia State lost in Neyland in 2010. People still mock Tennessee about that. That was a season opening game that year. We lose to Georgia State on national television. People still mock Tennessee about that. Number 2, the fell on a helmet comment with Shy Tuttle. the images of that, when Shy tweet, or I think he put it on Instagram actually, a photo of his eye, and it's just like all swollen up. And so Butch gets asked about it, and he says, "Hey, he fell on a helmet, and that's the truth."
Right.
Word for word, that's what he said. And if you'll recall, that weekend, Saturday morning on College Game Day, they show the photo on screen, and they start talking about it, and Reese Davis is just laughing about it. Like, it's so absurd that you would say he fell on a helmet. And so they're showing the Butch interview that day, that press conference, and Butch was like visibly upset that he's being questioned about this and asked about it, and he's getting defensive. And so at the end of it, Reese Davis says, "I think what Butch wanted to say to those reporters was, hey, go fall on a helmet." Like, I mean, and he, they're openly mocking this on national the premier college football show. That was embarrassing. But number one for me was when Kentucky beat Tennessee in 2011 with a wide receiver at quarterback. Man, that Tennessee had a 20 game winning streak coming into that game. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. I think that was the game in Chattanooga, the Chattanooga Times Free Press. The front page of the paper had the image of the quarterback sitting up on the stands, holding up, number one like this, beating them, and man, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. So that was fun. Good to relive those things. Our audience's most embarrassing moments. These are some of the comments we got from people. Dooley shower hygiene. That was one of the most embarrassing things. 5-star hearts, champions of life, leadership reps. That one still gets me. The 2011 loss to Kentucky, the turnover trash can, Pruitt's mask in 2020 that he had up to his eyes.
Yeah.
And then Laura on that one, which Laura's a realtor in the Chattanooga area. So if you need a realtor, go check out Laura. But and she said falling for brick by brick for so long. The Ole Miss game, which that was actually 2021, but we'll sneak it in here too, with golf balls and mustard bottles and stuff like that. And then the McDonald's bags. She said, surely we could have gone for Chick-fil-A.
I was actually pleasantly surprised when we found out that actually was Chick-fil-A.
Thank you so much, Mark. Everybody check out his book. Seriously, it is fascinating. Some of the information and the stories behind the scenes that you learn. Any book that starts off with a quote from Trooper Taylor on the first page, that's going to be a good book. So make sure you check that out. We'll throw a link in the description. And hey, let everybody know. Text a buddy about the Vol Bros, man. Tell people about the Vol Bros, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when we're going live, because we go live during basketball season. It's about twice a week.